Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Border City Rock Talk, where you get great news, great interviews, great interviewees with sometimes a comedic touch. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Please guys do that now, it'll get the algorithm rolling. And I should say Border City Rock Talk and more, because the channel's still going to be 99% rockers, but I am bringing on some different people, such as my guest today, Mr. Darcy Weir. How are you doing, Darcy?
Good, Ernest. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. No, we're here to talk. Well, before we start, I- what are you drinking?
Tea.
You got to be kidding me because I thought that you were from the UK, right? And what do the people in the UK drink? Tea.
Hmm.
So I'm Canadian, and I've got my drink for the night. And so yeah, so we're going to be prepared. But you're not Canadian. You're not from the UK, as I thought. You're
No.
from here in Canada.
Yeah, I was born in Toronto, sick kids general. I'm a sick kid, born and raised. And yeah, grew up in the suburbs and moved around Canada a lot. So I'm Canadian, but I make these documentaries in the States and the UK and all kinds of. I shot some in Australia,
Wow.
Mexico. Yep.
Yeah, you're pretty well read and well documented, obviously, traveling those paths. So, the documentary Psychic and the Phenomenon, did I got that right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I watched three-quarters of it today, and I have to tell you, I was more than surprised. I get sent a lot of new stuff here and there, and yeah, I mean, I'm skeptical. I'm an old school kind of guy. I interview the rockers, right, from the '80s and the early '90s. And this documentary, guys, go out and get it. I'm going to have links below. Check it out. It's really worth watching. I've watched three-quarters of it, and I'm going to watch the rest after. It's there's ufology in it, but it's based on basically the psychic and the phenomenon, obviously, as per the title, and things like remote viewing, which I've been fascinated with. Got you on this path?
So I travel every year to conferences, UFO conferences, all that type of stuff. And I got invited to show one of my earlier films called Transmedium, which is about like the ocean-based phenomenon of UFOs,
Hmm.
otherwise known as USOs, to show that film at a festival at a conference called Contact in the Desert out in Palm Springs, California.
Right,
And when I
right.
was there, I saw my friend's wife was presenting on not only the psychic sort of phenomenon, but um, the idea of quantum computing and the human brain might be this room temp quantum computer that's able to do things that, go beyond the 3D that we're trapped in every day. And her name is Tracy Garbett Dolan. This is
Yeah.
Richard Dolan's wife,
Was
who's
that
also
right?
Canadian. Also Canadian.
Yeah, I knew that Tracy was because I was watching the documentary, and then she's one of the she was in the remote viewing. But sorry, go on. I know of Richard because of the Art Bell show.
Yeah. So we started talking and I interviewed her there. Uh, this was like 2023. And then I shot some more interviews with her in 2024. And eventually I'm here, editing and making this documentary about our discussion. But I eventually was introduced by her to Russ Targ, the former director of the Stargate program, the CIA, DIA, remote viewing psychic intelligence program. And I met with Paul Smith, who Paul H. Smith was also one of the highly psychic remote viewers in that program. And Chris Ramsey, another Canadian who actually studied remote viewing himself. He went up to level 4 and really just kind of rounded it out with other people that have to talk about psychic stuff. I don't know if you got to Jeffrey Tarrant's section of the documentary yet, but this is a guy that was part of the telepathy tapes investigations, and he's
Yeah.
strapping like EEGs to psychics' heads, and
Right. Yeah, I
reading
did
their
get to that part to
yeah.
map what's happening in their brains.
So just like trying to round it out with as much people to give testimony that this stuff is real, and then explore the sort of UFO extraterrestrial connection, because I love those theories and that story too.
Right. I mean, the thing is, I've been into ufology since the Art Bell days, way back in the day, and I've interviewed probably a colleague that you've met at the show in Nevada, Stephen Bassett.
Oh yeah, he gets around.
He gets around all right. He actually just sent someone a link to me to interview. So, now this is all real, guys. Like people that are skeptics, I'm like, this is what I said, and I wrote it down. If you're skeptical of there's aliens out there, what about believing in Christ, right? Or God, or the afterlife, or people like that believe in they're Muslim and they believe Muhammad. So if you can find yourself believing in something you can't see and touch, why not believe in aliens and things of that nature?
Yeah, I think there's a very valid point there, and I wouldn't want anybody to give up their belief in faith of God, or
Right, right. No.
the Son of God, whichever faith you come from. But
Hmm.
yeah, like there's definitely um, a lot of evidence that UFOs and possible non-human intelligence that are connected to these things exist. And this is something I've been documenting for over a decade now. I started my journey in this in 2009. So 2 decades of researching this stuff. But
So you started when you were 6?
you think I'm 5 years old or something?
No, I don't think you're that old for this, saying you've been studying it for 2 decades. So you look very young. So I don't know, maybe you got some alien DNA.
I might. I'm 41, so I
Is that
appreciate
right?
that. Yeah,
Oh, geez. Wow.
I was born in 1984.
Holy jeez.
But I think there's a lot of groundwork that's been done by people that have investigated serious events in history, mass witness sightings, contacts, and abductions, and craft retrievals. Like the list kind of goes on, and
Yeah,
there's um, lots of evidence that this stuff is happening.
yeah.
And I think it's kind of like breaking the dam, so to speak, so that
Mhm.
mainstream media takes it eventually seriously, which I think they are, right? We're kind of
Well,
living in this age of disclosure, as people have been
well, I was going to
mentioning.
bring up something right at the beginning. Have you seen one of Tucker Carlson interviewed? I think he's a senator. About a week ago. Did you see that one?
Tim Burchett.
Yeah, exactly. And for Tucker to bring on somebody to talk about a subject, and the subject was, is there alien technology being hidden from us and aliens? And he was right on, and I believe he's a senator, and he was saying absolutely. And people will say, well, why haven't we found out? And the secret would get out, but it's all compartmentalized. Everything is like on a need to know basis. It's restricted, and one of the reasons I was talking actually somebody today, and we were talking about what is the reason why it hasn't been revealed, to the public in mass. Well, there's one theory, I think it was the church investigation or whatever, that said there'd be hysteria. But the other one is corporations. If there's free energy, what do you think would happen to the oil companies?
Mm-hmm.
And do you
The
think that
energy.
they're honest and saying, oh, well, let everybody have their, no, 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 that's not how it works. So, I mean, for Tucker Carlson and everybody, I'll put the link down below for that one too. You got to watch that interview with the senator.
Yeah, I mean, the energy cartels that run the planet, I guess that's kind of like the open secret right now, right? And I think that people being worried about fallout happening with the economy and all that stuff, I guess it's a worthy concern if technologies are revealed, but I don't think those technologies would ever be revealed. And what people have to keep in mind in terms of the secrecy of this topic and why the militaries and the intelligence communities of the United States really have run the show and kept this from going public for so long is the fact that the way they run these organizations
Hmm.
is uh, traditional project management framework that was born during World War II
Yeah,
when they were making the Manhattan Project, when they were making the nuclear bombs, right?
yeah.
The Manhattan Project, which is Los Alamos Science City, uh, they set that up. They brought out scientists, and everything that they did was so super secretive. It was of the utmost, you know, protective national security sort of nature. So
You'd
if
have to
somebody
sign
leaked,
an NDA.
well, not just an NDA, but they'd whack you if they found
Yeah,
out you leaked
100%.
information to the
Yeah,
Russians, right? Because
yeah,
they were at war with Germany, Japan, and eventually after that war, a Cold War with Russia, right? Because
yeah,
they knew that Russia was developing their own nuclear program. So the DoD, now the DOW, the Department of War,
yeah.
has been working in that framework, which is called waterfall framework of developing things,
Hmm.
and they stovepipe and compartmentalize all workers so that if you're working on one part of like the engine, the other guy's working on another part of the engine over here, they're not supposed to cross collaborate. You know,
No.
they're not supposed to share information because they want to keep it so secret that if anything leaks, that type of thing, a foreign adversary won't be able to put everything together
You would
based
have a
off of
one piece of the puzzle.
it would only have one piece of the puzzle, right? That's the point of traditional project management
Yeah,
style of working on developing things, right? And the rest of the world works in agile, which is like you just walk from one department to the other and you share ideas and you find out what the other team leaders are working on in terms of building an application. You know, what's the UI team doing, the UX team? Oh, what are the engineers doing to make this thing go, whatever, right? So people don't really understand like how could a secret be kept, right? But it's
yeah,
it's because the rest of the public working for corporations and stuff usually don't have that waterfall project management style like Manhattan project um, work environment that they
right.
have to develop things in super secretly. And the only
Hmm.
guys that are still working in that way are aerospace, defense tech, and the military and the intelligence communities of the world. So
Yeah,
it's very and then you have all of these people that are coming from those backgrounds recently, like Tim Gallaudet, former two-star Navy admiral, that's been talking about the cover-up of UAP sightings by the Navy out in the oceans.
hmm.
Um, and you have James Clapper and like all of these high-ranking officials from the military or intelligence backgrounds that are saying this is real, right?
There's even a
There,
Canadian, what is his name? Defense minister or something years ago. He said
well,
the same thing,
it
similar.
wasn't it wasn't a defense minister.
No.
He wrote a letter to the defense minister,
Okay.
Anand. What's her name? But yes,
But
he
he
works
was,
in HR, and
yeah,
I
well,
know who
he
you're
would,
talking about.
might be thinking about two different people, but there was a high-ranking Canadian, either in the military ranks or something, Paul something, Hiller?
Oh, Paul Hellyer.
Hellier.
He used to be a minister of defense for Canada in the
Okay.
70s, I think under actually Trudeau, maybe the 60s. The
Oh,
original
okay.
Trudeau, pure
Yeah.
Trudeau. And he became fascinated in this subject apparently when he read Colonel J. Corso's The Day After
Yeah, I've got the
Roswell
book.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he reached out to his contacts in the US and eventually got in touch with Philip J. Corso himself and kind of got read in that way. And I think he
Okay.
also reached out to other Canadian defense people to see if there was
Okay.
something going on. Because we're not as robust or um, equipped our military as the United States. Obviously, we're so
We've
behind
got
in
a
a lot of things.
military.
The Canadian military is definitely
We've
like,
got one. I
yeah,
thought we had like we've got a hang glider and a squirt gun.
yeah, we just got rid of the Sea Kings.
Yeah.
But the point is that we do have NORAD, which is in charge of protecting North American airspace from
Yeah.
Canada down to the U.S. and reporting and collaborating with the United States and Mexico. And so we would have a collection and reporting apparatus for UAP or UFOs, as they were
Hmm.
formerly called.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty confident that uh, we do like when there was that small period of time that Canada and the US was really opening up the books about UFOs and UAPs in the past like 3 years.
Hmm.
There seemed to be some headway, and Sky Canada was set up, but Sky Canada hasn't published any of their findings about UAPs or UFOs, and we don't even know where their collection data is going. So
Mm.
it's kind of like this organization that they set up to try and mirror what was happening in the United States with regards to like Arrow and stuff, but
Hmm.
no one really knows what's happening there.
So let's get back to the documentary. One thing I wanted to say, you touched on something that was very, very obvious to me. If anybody's followed Bob Lazar, he said the same thing. It's all compartmentalized. He goes, he was not allowed to see what the other scientists were doing when he was in Area 50, Area 51. Now, getting back to, let's say, psychics and remote viewing, explain to the viewer that doesn't know what is remote viewing. And I think Ingo Swann was a very famous one at Dames, but explain what it is.
Yeah, so essentially, it is a controlled methodology to practice a psychic uh, ability to collect data about a target. And there's usually a controller to that study, like a person who sits in the room and guides the remote viewer through the whole experience to try and get the best data about the target that they've set this psychic on revealing more information about. And it goes up. Controlled remote viewing was invented by Ingo Swann. He also went on and did stuff with like extended remote viewing. And there's 6 stages to controlled remote viewing. Um, all of those we show 4 of the stages through Chris Ramsey, who in the documentary, who kind of did his own thing studying this. But the most powerful remote viewers in history have been recorded on paper, and the documentation of that was declassified because actually Russell Targ's son became a lawyer and successfully sued um, the department, the DIA, to release the documentation about the Stargate program, which Russ was heading up. And it essentially showed that remote viewers were targeting locations in Russia and all kinds of strange locations. Some even there's a
Mars.
CIA part of Mars. Yeah, there's a CIA document you can look up on Google from 1984, which is on the CIA's website. And this was the targeted remote viewing session that Joe McMoneagle was running at the time, and he looked at a target that was set by the CIA to understand some structures on the surface of Mars, who made them, um, how long ago, what happened there, what they're trying to do. And it just kind of proves if the CIA or the DIA was interested in sort of anomalous or UFO sort of targets,
Hmm.
there must be something real there, right? They wouldn't waste their time.
Yep.
And yeah, essentially, I like remote viewing because it's a scientific sort of endeavor, right? It's this controlled study sort of environment to try and get the best data from a psychic on a location. You quiet your mind, you look out, and you start jotting down all the information that you can pick up about this location, who's there, what you see with your mind's eye. And I think people may think, oh, that's hogwash. Like, there's no way that works. But again, the CIA, the DIA were using it. They officially shut down the program publicly in 1995. They invested millions and millions of dollars into it.
Right.
Um, there's lots of indications and testimony that they're still using that tool and tactic today,
Oh yeah.
based on people like Paul H. Smith and other remote viewers that are sometimes hired by these organizations to look at things with their team of psychics. So I think they definitely know about the value in that tool, that
Hmm.
strategy of gaining intelligence. And, we have really powerful satellites that are circumnavigating the globe and taking pictures and videos and the highest resolution you can think of foreign adversaries' locations.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you get that data, you're still limited by seeing the top of a roof from a bird's eye view,
Right.
right?
Right.
So if that's the case, how do you get more intelligence that might be valuable? And that's where you might want to employ one of these psychics to look at that target that you have pictures and videos of and say, look inside that building for me. Tell me who's there. What are they doing? What are they working on? What do they have? You know? And Pat Price, for example, is this guy that supposedly could look. He was given a target, and the documents are out there, um, by supposedly somebody at the CIA. They wanted to look him to look at a cabin in the woods, and what he looked at was beyond that, an underground base that was set up secretly by the NSA, and he was able to look into a safe effectively and read words on pieces of paper inside of a safe.
Wow.
So that's how powerful some of these remote viewers could be.
Hmm.
Um, and I think the intelligence and military scoop those people up as soon as they identify them, because they
Oh
don't
yeah.
want them wandering out there and, ending up working for an adversary or something like
Yeah.
that.
Well, 100%. When you brought up, well, when I saw in the documentary, he was talking about the pyramids and the face on Mars. I'm like, first thing I thought was Dick Hoagland. I bought
Yeah.
his book way back when it was first out. And so, I mean, there's some more proof. Now, Edgar Mitchell is featured quite a bit in the documentary. Um, I believe I heard because I was listening to it with Bluetooth while I was cooking. I wasn't watching all the time, but there's something to the effect of somebody saw on the moon there was some aliens, one of the remote viewers.
Yeah.
So
Ingo
the reason
Swan.
I'm saying that is I've always thought for the last, I don't know, 20 years that the US did not land on the moon. And there's all these reasons. These people will say, the wind, there shouldn't be any atmosphere, all this stuff. And then I also thought, why haven't they gone back? Because the Americans, once they accomplish something, they're going to keep on. And I thought that was really odd. So I'm of the opinion until kind of now, and I'm still of the opinion that the Americans didn't go to the moon. It was staged, and they didn't want to obviously say that we couldn't do it because Kennedy had made the pledge. But hearing that, maybe there's something to why they haven't gone back.
Yeah, I like produced a series called Secret Space UFOs a little while back, and I'm a firm believer we did go to the moon.
Okay.
But I think what the greatest secret about that is that what people confuse possibly is that there was stages, studios set up on Earth to not only practice and um, kind of get an idea of what the landscape should look like around where they're landing when they're there
Right.
and uh, strategize, right? Like there was
Right.
all
Right.
kinds of things. They spent so much money on building these stages that maybe if they weren't sure they wanted the American public or the international media to know what was really up there,
Mm-hmm.
they replaced some of the footage and the
Okay.
broadcasts were actually filmed here to cover up what they were actually doing on the moon. I think that's like the
Good point.
greatest, and like people like Bart Sabrell says, well, this is proof that they didn't go to the moon, but it's like, or it's proof that they were covering up what they were really seeing or doing on the moon from the public. And they did that by putting out this bogus stuff. So
Mhm.
everybody gets stuck up on the bogus stuff and
Right,
think, well, that shows they didn't go there. Well, we know they definitely went to space, right? The
right,
Gemini missions, the Mercury missions, the X-15 missions, they were going into space. And we know that we have satellites up there. We know space is real.
right, right.
Um, it's just, I think, whether they uh, were trying to conceal information about what they were finding on the moon. And there's megalithic structures, and there's possibly,
Glass domes and stuff. That's what
oh,
I've
yeah, that's
heard.
Richard C. Hoagland stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but before we get back to your documentary, which I'll put a link to this one as well. The one other thing is I've heard and read of the Van Allen belt, which is so much radiation in it that it would fry anything going through it. That's another one of the skeptics' reasons. What do you have any thoughts on that or?
So the Russians created that theory, and the Russians didn't win that space race, right?
Mm.
The Russians also said that we didn't have enough rocket technology to even propel man to the moon. Like we couldn't even lift the Apollo, which is
You mean the Soviets?
the Soviets. Yeah. So the Soviets
Yeah.
basically created this propaganda,
Okay.
and the whole point of propaganda is to disillusion your enemy's citizens so much that they end up becoming either radicalized against
Yeah.
their own country or distrust their country so much that they stop being, you know, um, servants to or in patriots to the same cause that the rest of the
Bring down
country
the
is
morale.
forward. Yeah, that's the whole point of real effective propaganda. And Russia was very effective at spreading propaganda in the United States public. I'd say some of that stuff is really prevalent there today. It's like a mind virus that's just taken over. So
Mm. Good
we
point.
know that we can get equipment to the moon. And
Yeah.
I think that we got astronauts to the moon. I think a lot of the astronauts also suffered radiation to some degree. But if you look at the equipment they were using, the astronauts' suits, everything was kind of being built to account for radiation, like the Van Allen belt.
Right.
So, um, again, it's like a conspiracy within a conspiracy.
Yeah.
And you're going to get people that believe the earth is flat
Yeah.
and that there is no such thing as space, because they just convince themselves and they stay within that bubble of thinking.
Perfect. Good answer. So in the respects to psychic abilities, I believe I've got pretty good intuition. I really do. I'm not saying I'm a psychic. People don't unsubscribe. Subscribe. Hit the button now too. Um, I do have good intuition on a lot of things, and I've proven it. I just would happen to say this is going to happen, and sure as shit, it happens. And I think everybody has some sort of psychic ability. But what would you say? And what when a skeptic says, "Well, if somebody has the ability to remote view, why aren't they remote viewing the lottery ticket winning numbers?" I know you've heard that before, but what would you say to the viewers watching that maybe haven't heard that answer?
I mean, that might not be the most effective thing. I would say that everybody, I agree, has some kind of basic level of psychic ability. Like there's a scientist from the UK, Rupert Sheldrake, who was investigating psychic abilities, going back to the 80s and 90s. And he would do sort of clinical tests where he noticed, like, he published a book about dogs and pets being psychically connected with their owners.
Yeah,
For example, this one lady, she would go to work, and every time she had the intention in her mind, I'm going to go back home now, the animal, the dog, would respond and go to the front door and start waiting. And they had a camera system set up, and they thought maybe, oh, this could be a schedule that the dog is building in their mind. Perhaps the dog
right.
has just learned they're going to come back at 4 or 5 at the end of the day, whatever, right? But they broke that theory by showing her go to work, and then after 15 minutes or 30 minutes, she comes back, and every time she had that intention, the dog would know. So
Mm,
I think there's small levels of psychic ability that are non-human, right? With
yeah.
that analogy. And if there are other non-humans out there that are greater intelligence than us, perhaps they can practice psychic abilities with us as well. And then there are human psychic abilities that are innate. So, for example, something Rupert Sheldrake tested was the ability for people to notice somebody looking at them. And you've probably experienced this. Many
Yeah.
other people have experienced this. They'll go to the mall. It'll be a busy food court or something, and somebody will be standing above the food court on the second level, looking down at a table or something like that. And that person that's being stared at will immediately look up and
Yeah.
connect eyes with that person that's staring at them. And that is like probably some kind of instinctual programming we have to protect ourselves. Because usually,
Mm-hmm.
if a predator in the forest or something was staring at you, you figure it out and then you just start to run, whatever that is. But I think it goes from there, something instinctual, where everybody has some sort of basic psychic abilities to protect themselves. It goes from there to precognition, people that are able to predict what's going to happen in the future, or remote viewing, people that can see a location in their mind's eye really well and they can describe it and illustrate it and provide that information to somebody who needs it. And then you've got psychic mediums, which we kind of covered in this documentary too, with Jeffrey Tarrant. And they're able to tell you what's going to happen in your future. They can read what kind of family you're from, the type of person you are, and the things you're struggling with or the things that you need in your life, you know?
Yeah.
So I do think that there's a sliding scale of abilities. And, Ed May, who's this guy that's kind of took over after Russell Targ to study with Stanford Research Institute, the remote viewing stuff. He said, you know, when asked by Chris, if you're psychic, are you able to, enhance your abilities by learning the remote viewing stages or, um, you know,
Hmm.
attuning your psychic abilities? And Ed May's response was, yes, you can learn up to your natural given skill of
Yeah.
being a psychic, but if you're not very psychic, you're not going to go far with that. You're only going to learn up to where your abilities are. And if you think about historically, people who were very naturally gifted as psychics, like Ingo Swann or Pat Price, these were examples of people that already were incredibly psychic. They talked about being, adolescents and being able to predict things or see something psychically. And then when they found the remote viewing program, they trained up to that really high level of psychic ability that they had. Right.
Right.
So that's that sliding scale. I'm probably not very psychic. I'll be the first to admit it. But, I guess intuition, like you were saying before, is something. And sometimes something's coming uh, in your mind's eye before it happens, and you're able to predict that. I think that's, an example. It's just whether you can train to do that better and better.
Yeah, I'm not good at direction, so I can't train anything, but it just comes here and there. Now, I remember Ed Mitchell was talking about when he was they were flying back in the ship. It's something about Zeffler notes or something. What am I talking about? What are they?
Zener cards.
Zener
Yeah.
cards. Explain that because I didn't really get that.
So the Zener symbols,
Yeah.
if you've ever seen the movie, the opening of the brilliant film Ghostbusters, the original, you've got Peter Venkman. He's at a university in a basement, I think, a basement library or something like that. And he's got these electrical nodes set up to students. And if they get the symbol wrong, if they don't predict the one that he's picked up and has hidden from their view, he'll electrocute them, which I don't think was the standard testing for that actual psychic ability test. But
Well, there was that one test. I don't know if you sound very well read. So about how far people will go, and there was a torture test. It was done in I think in Montreal during MK Ultra, and
oh my
they're
God.
telling people to zap or turn up the voltage to the person on the other side of the thing, and they would scream and they would convince this unwitting person to keep doing it. And it's basically about conditioning people, and it would show that people would just tweak enough, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. People will go to extreme lengths that they would normally just say, "Are you fucking kidding him? I'm not going to do that to that person."
Yeah. A lot of interesting psychological studies that have come out of Montreal for sure, like the bystander effect. But yeah, with these Zener cards, there's five symbols. There's a triangle, there's a square, there's a circle, wavy lines, and there's a star. And that psychic test was invented by a guy named J.B. Rhine, who runs the who created the Rhine Institute in North Carolina. It's still there today. You can go into it. They still do psychic testing, and a lot of the work that he pioneered. This gentleman was doing this back in the 1940s, well before Russell Targ and all those guys,
Wow.
um, at Duke University. And um, essentially, Edgar Mitchell being the brain at Houston and then finally getting sent to the moon on Apollo 14, he was into this stuff.
Yeah.
He was a open-minded scientist. He was a physicist, right? And they called him the brain because on the previous Apollo missions, he worked at Houston to try and get everybody back to the planet that was up there. He
Right.
was kind of like an astronaut support worker aiding in the mission, so they had the best chance of landing their trajectory and all that type of thing. And so he was picked. He went, and when he was up there, he had a little pad that he would do these psychic tests and try to guess Zener card symbols that the Rhine people were working with him back on Earth. And
Hmm.
apparently, he had like a 90% effective rate. So he was convinced that psychic abilities are real. And serendipitously, when Russ Targ was at NASA trying to get funding after he finished this laser project for them to do psychic testing. Um, Edgar Mitchell heard this conversation and he actually walked in and offered his ability to try and walk this research over to Stanford Research Institute.
Right. Yeah.
And
Remember that
it
in
actually
doc.
happened because of Edgar Mitchell. So
Hmm.
not everybody knows that, and it was just part of the documentary wanted to show in modern history how this psychic stuff was starting to pick up.
So these days, who would you say is one of the most prominent psychics or remote viewers that you've studied or followed, or that's current right now? That's very like Miss Dolan, like I mean, for sure. But who else would you say?
Yeah, so I think Paul H. Smith, he actually teaches the Ingo Swann School of Remote Viewing. He took over after Ingo moved on. He's no longer with us. And he was one of the direct students of Ingo Swann. And Joe McMonagle teaches
Yeah.
at the Monroe Institute even today. And they're not just doing remote viewing there, they're doing out of body experiences and all kinds of other meditative and, mind exercises there. It's pretty incredible.
Speaking of that, I was going to intertwine. Um, what do you say in regards to let's say the pineal gland and say DMT, dimethyltryptamine, and people that would take that for an out of body experience? How do you bring that full circle to psychic ability?
Yeah, well, I don't know if DMT really would be the drug of choice to do or a, add, let's say a supplement in order to have an out of body experience. I
Okay,
think they're kind of what Rick Straussman was experimenting with the spirit molecule, as his book is titled,
great book. Yeah,
was to literally have your mind go to another dimension, basically
yeah.
that exists around us. But for an out of body experience where you're able to see your body out of your body, right? You're floating out of your body and you can go through walls and you can psychically go with that sort of, let's say, spirit body to a different location and stuff. They train that at Monroe Institute. And Chris Ramsey was telling me that you can look up his sort of documentary on YouTube on the Area 52 investigations on his OBE training. And what he told me was what was really effective, and he was able to accomplish this feat of having an out of body experience, was by taking a really high level of melatonin. Um,
Really?
Yeah, which, many people take it to try and have sleep, to have a
Yeah.
deeper sleep, or to fall asleep at a certain time of night because they can't shut down their mind and stuff. I've used it before many a time. It can make me pretty groggy the next day too if I take too much. But
Hmm.
apparently, if you take a really high level of it and you follow these steps that he did, you can have an out of body experience very easily. Um, Another thing that people have reported in, the OBE sort of phenomenon, is painkillers sometimes activating it. So we hear about hospital settings where people are being operated on and they're given a sedative, um, and they think that they've woken up in the middle of the surgery, and they can't move. They're technically paralyzed, but they
Hmm.
see themselves in the operating theater. They see the doctor, they see the nurses, they can hear them talking, and they can move outside the room into the hospital hallway in this sort of OBE. Um, Apparently, sometimes like Tylenol threes, or, and I am not a medical expert. Do not follow my advice. This is just an opinion and an idea that's been expressed out there. Um, but these types of things, like these sedatives that really relax you,
Hmm.
they sometimes lead to an out of body experience if you're somehow still very awake when you take these things. And
Well,
yeah,
that's interesting that you brought up the out of body experiences in the hospitals because I was just going to say when people say, well, there's nothing after death, we just turn into dust. There's many, many millions or thousands or tens of thousands of cases. You can find them on YouTube where people die in the hospital on the operating table. Their heart rate goes to zero. The doctors confirm it. And then they say what they saw from above, like the nurse was wearing this, she shouted this. So, I mean, the combination of that and maybe the drugs that you said that they were given, anesthetic
yeah,
or,
yeah, anesthetic. Exactly. That's usually what can trigger this type of thing, apparently. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I've had something like that happen to me when I was hungover and I had a Tylenol 3, um, just to try and hammer away that hangover. But I was kind of trying to sleep and I was lying in my room, and all of a sudden I kind of just saw myself floating above my body, and I panicked. And when I panicked, I kind of went back into my body, and I remember like kind of almost jumping out of bed because I was so freaked out. I just remember that floating sensation and seeing
yeah,
myself.
yeah.
Um,
Did you just come
and
out of did you just have a surgery recently before this happened or?
no, why I had I mean, this is before people
See,
were
that's intuition. You knew where I was going with this.
this was before people were abusing like Tylenol threes and heavy
Oh,
sedatives and
you could get
stuff.
them off the shelf?
No,
Oh, okay.
I think somebody in the house had surgery in the past, and because we don't take a lot of that type of stuff,
Hmm.
it was just sitting in, you know, the pill jar, and I was like, I'm just gonna take one of these, and I don't take a lot of that stuff. Like I haven't,
No,
I
you
don't even
look
like
pretty healthy.
I don't even like taking ibuprofen when I've got a headache, So, but yeah, apparently this sometimes happens.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna let you go here. This has been fascinating. I want to bring you back on and talk about some of your other docs. Where can people get the documentary right now? And when was it released?
It was released in September, so you can see
Oh,
it now on Amazon Prime,
yeah,
YouTube, Red, Google Play, Apple
Tubi.
TV. I don't. Is it actually in Tubi? I don't think it's
I
on
thought I
Tubi.
saw it. Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
but you're in Canada, right? I don't think
Are you in Canada or you're in
yeah,
the States now?
I'm on,
Okay.
I'm in Canada. So let me
Okay.
see. I'm checking live.
There we go.
Uh
While he's checking, everybody subscribe to the channel, hit the like button.
yeah. I don't see it on Tubi. I don't think it
Okay.
got Tubi is pretty hard to get onto these days, but a lot of my films are, and if people want to watch some of my back catalog of documentaries that are also in this wild space of exploring,
Yeah.
they could just search my name, Darcy Weir, and a
Yeah.
whole list of my films will come up, usually UFO or Bigfoot related. And and then you can follow me on socials like X, Adult Cult Journeys, YouTube. I've got a free documentary of my sort of UFO boots on the ground investigation in Puerto Rico there
Okay.
right now. If you want to check that out, that's Adult Cult Journeys on YouTube and
Okay.
Darcy Weir Films on Instagram and just Darcy Weir on Facebook if you want to have a
You don't
chat.
have a website. What's your website? Is a
My
cult?
website, my studio site is occultjourneys.com.
Okay, perfect. So everybody check it out. I'm not joking when I say this is amazing documentary. I've seen three-quarters of it. I am going to watch the rest of it. It's not one of the documentaries where the producer just speaks for 3 hours. Darcy respectfully asks a question or two, and then he'll have a segment where Stan Friedman will answer. He'll put some Edgar Mitchell information. Some is it Pam Dolan? Is her name Pam?
No, it's Tracy Garbett Dolan. Yeah.
Tracy Garvin Dolan, and all of these people that in my generation have grown up, researching and reading about. So it's a really good fucking doc. Yeah, I can swear on my own show. Fucking documentary. So once again, man. Oh, I've got a cliche question for you. What's the opposite of unsubscribe?
Uh, unfollow or follow, subscribe. Sorry. I said the same
That's
thing
fine.
as unsubscribe. Sorry.
Everybody subscribe to the channel, as Darcy says. Thanks, Michelle, for setting this up. Actually, Darcy was the reason I got the Jimmy Church interview because she asked me to interview Darcy. And had I seen the documentary first, I would have said yes right away. But I said, my channel is 99% rock. I don't know. And I saw that she had Jimmy Church as a client. I said, you get me an interview with Jimmy, I'll interview Darcy. And she got me the interview with Jimmy. And like I said, Darcy, I'm being totally honest. If I'd seen the documentary first, I would have said yes right away. So thanks a lot for the doc. And everybody, all the links will be below. And coming up on Sunday, I've got a big Australian rock star legend coming up. I'm not going to tell you who it is. So, anyways, thanks, Darcy.
Thank you.